I have lost count at this point how many times I've had cities call me and they say, hey, we heard that you can help us. We're trying to regulate platform XYZ. We're trying to learn more about the sharing economy and so forth. Can we speak with you? And I'm always happy to speak with people like that. So I talk to them, and let's just say I've got 5 or 6 people on the phone, and they say, I'll just use the example of Airbnb. And they say, hey, we need to figure out how to regulate Airbnb. And I ask them, okay, how many of you regulators have used Airbnb? And I get radio silence. And I can't tell you what a dangerous recipe that is. If you don't know what you're looking at, and you're trying to regulate something that you don't know how it works and you've never used it yourself, that is a very poor recipe for effective regulation. Now, I mention that because most of the time, and this relates to kind of the framework through which I work with cities and also just see this space in general. On day one, most regulators simply want to race straight to, how do we regulate this? How do we regulate just solve this problem? And for me, I get that regulation is an important piece in the journey, but it actually is the end point. What you first need to do is make sure you clearly understand not just what you're looking at in terms of one particular platform, but how all of these different platforms are connected in different ways and help people, individuals in your city, in your community, meet their needs in new ways. So it's not just, how we purchase, it's how we work and how we travel and how we learn and how we eat and how we spend our money and how we raise our families. It's all of these different things together. And that policymakers really need to understand that bigger picture, because then they need to, what they really need to do is identify the goals that they have as a city, whether it's reduction of congestion, greater sustainability, increased dollars from tourism, whatever the case may be. Identify the goals and then figure out how can these sharing economy platforms help you reach those goals. And when you start looking through that lens, then you look at something like regulation, and your regulation is going to look different than it did on the day one that you called me and said, hey, we just need to solve this problem that we don't like. And so for me, there's a bit of reverse engineering that needs to happen in terms of mindset of policymakers. That's the kind of work that I often do, which is resetting, recasting, or reframing that conversation where we absolutely get to regulation, but you need to understand what you really need to regulate and what you don't. What are the risks that, thanks to new technologies, by and large, almost disappear, versus those new risks that emerge because of these new technologies, and try to develop the most lightweight yet flexible way of iterating on and improving regulations that are to be set moving forward.